Pre-season officially kicks off, and today, my friends, I'm here to discuss what went down in Enzo Maresca's first day as our new manager. On top of that, we have yet again some big transfer stories that you guys need to know about. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit that like button, show us some love, and let's get straight into things. To start with things, we have announced yet again another new signing for this summer, as we have agreed to sign Atlanta United's young American left back in Caleb Wiley for around £8.5 million. He's set to sign on a 7-year deal, and he will be signed under our club. He won't be signed through Blueco, and that's essentially due to the fact that in Liga 1 right now, there are still some issues in terms of TV right deals, so they don't have the finances at the moment, of course, to justify a move through Blueco. So he is set to now go on loan to Strasbourg for the season. I think that's good for him, and I'm really interested to see how Wiley and Oscar Pereira could perform together on that left flank. Now, I know that a lot of Strasbourg fans aren't as impressed that they've sold all their experience and ready-made players to buy into a project they had no say in and they don't really agree with. Hopefully our players can shine, they can perform, and hopefully if Strasbourg starts to improve in the table, that can slowly win their fans over if they're getting access to a more exciting type of player they traditionally don't get access to. In the meantime, Caleb Wiley has been capped 2 times for the United States. He is currently in the squad for the Olympic team in Paris, and he is the 5th youngest player that we've bought this summer. In total, when you combine your Gues, your Caymans, and all these new signings, we've invested under £60 million on 5 new exciting prospects. Now, you can imagine that not all of them are set to make it, but can their value rise over the next 2 to 3 years? Can some of them find themselves in the squad at least, or as part of our first team? They have a lot of years in their contract for us to decide what happens, but I do think that Caleb Wiley seems a pretty interesting type of talent. And I know you guys are watching this game on screen right now. It could be a lazy comparison, but I don't know if you guys are noticing a little bit of an Alphonso Davies in his game, in the sense that he's extremely explosive. He is not afraid to take on a man. But Atlanta United, he's basically playing more as like a wing back compared to playing as a fullback. But you'd imagine that with his profile, of course his physicality, his speeds, and his endurance, he can play in both boxes for fun. He is someone that could be developed as the seasons go on, and you'd imagine that at Strasbourg he'll most likely play as a left back, which is going to be a great education for him to kickstart life in Europe. But on top of that, he seems like a pretty good crosser of the ball. He's not afraid to get into that final third, and similar to Alphonso Davies, him and another American player, but similar to an Alphonso Davies, they actually share the same record that was broken in the MLS, and they're part of an illustrious group of teen talents that have recorded at least 3 goal contributions in one half of football. Now, Alphonso Davies did this twice in one season at 17 years old in the MLS. Caleb Wiley did this last season, literally 2 months after turning 18 years old. For his price and his value, he either makes it here or could potentially be sold for decent money in the future. But to be honest with you, he seems like a pretty interesting talent. He's here for a very affordable fee, and let's see how this kid does. And I'm excited to see his season on loan at Strasbourg. So that's the first story out the way, and now we dissect how Enzo Maresca's first day went at Cobham since taking over as our new manager. As we've seen, the players now have returned back for pre-season. Of course, a few players still aren't here. They're still on international duty in the Copa America, at the Euros. They'll be back soon, but I have to say, it's so nice to see a lot of first team stars that we weren't able to rely upon consistently last season here with smiles on their faces, getting ready to take part in pre-season. I'm looking at Wesley Fofana, I'm looking at Romeo Lavia, even Reece James, even Nkunku, who, listen, we saw glimpses of him throughout last season, but not consistently. Levi Cole was back, and it's a reminder that we missed out on quite a lot of star talent throughout last season, and if we could tap into at least like 50% of their game time last season? Could that have been the difference that we needed to guarantee Champions League football? Who knows? But I feel like if Maresca can get access to these guys for next season, his chances of getting Champions League football are going to be that much higher. I'm hoping that this season Wesley Fofana will have an injury-free season. Already at such a young age, he's missed at least 2 years of football due to a leg break and last season's injuries. So I still have faith in him. He's still a big talent. He's on massive wages. He's not elite just yet. I still think he's like maybe 2 years off minimum of consistent minutes to get to that level. But I think he will add a lot to that strength and depth in that defense for next season. On top of that, my friends, we've seen new signings like Kellyman, Dewsbury Hall and Adara Bioyo already familiarizing themselves at Cobham and integrating very well with the first team, you know, based on the clips that we are seeing. But I want to get into even more details about what is going on in pre-season. Now, on screen beside me, you guys are watching them going through their paces, doing their fitness tests, doing their cardio tests, doing their stretches, etc, etc. But courtesy of Sebastian Chapuis from Twitter, you know, he is a real-life football coach. He knows what he's talking about. The guy is an expert in the game. He was able to offer us some insight behind some of the tests that we are seeing on screen. Case in point, the beat test. Now, this is normally done because you want to test to push the player's limits. This test measures their VO2 max capacity and the max intake of oxygen the body can take at peak exertion. It's really good for determining endurance, and that is something you're definitely going to need. Other tests like the max effort test, for example, that normally performed on bikes is like a lot less intensive, but this test pushes the player's limits to measure their heart rate. Other things like force plates, when they're like, you know, holding the plates and jumping up. This allows coaches to measure the lower body strength that players have, and essentially you measure the time that they spend in the air to determine the power they have in their lower body. And he provided insight behind other interesting things we're seeing behind the scenes, like the use of a big screen that I'm sure will be a regular part of coaching sessions throughout next season. Now, other managers have done this. It's not necessarily something new that no one taps into. Even Graham Potter took advantage of that at times. But I do think with Maresca, for example, with his focus on positioning, with his focus on player patterns and movements, he'll want to like really embed in players' muscle memories where they have to be on and off the ball in all areas. So by having a big screen, which is like one use of that, is recording how training sessions are going with different camera angles. Whenever Maresca needs to pause training sessions to get players' attentions, he can do that using the big screen, and he can pinpoint areas of focus that these players must be paying attention to. So that could hopefully help with the tactical understanding of the game. That's going to be key. But my friends, I'm going to recommend that you guys go through Sebastian Chapuis' Twitter threads. There's even more insight. It's even longer, but I don't want to spend like 20 minutes going through everything. But I'm sure you'll learn a lot behind what goes down during pre-seasons, because ultimately we have to remember this. Yes, the PR's nice. It's great to see the players smiling, great to see our boys back, but we won't be seeing all the actual nitty gritty details that are going down behind the scenes. Let's not forget that. Still though, it seems like based on Maresca's body actions and body language, he will be a hands-on type of manager. He'll be very vocal. He'll be communicating a lot to the team, telling them his expectations, what he needs, and he seems like he's a personality that isn't afraid to let these guys know what the deal is and what they must focus on and improve on. So I'm hoping that we have a successful pre-season. I'm hoping that we have an injury-free season ahead. That is going to be key at determining Champions League qualification at a bare minimum. But it's great to see the team back. It's great to see that Maresca ain't wasting any time in terms of pre-season preparation, and hopefully we look back at this period with fond memories, because this was the key time that really set our season off. So my friends, that is everything we learned in Maresca's first day as our new manager. And now we end things with a final big story that has been developing over the past 24 hours. And it involves Adeyemi, the winger / forward that is currently playing at Borussia Dortmund. Now to start with things, this was first reported by Plettenberg, and he came out to mention that Adeyemi at the moment is on our shortlist. Remember, Focus on that word shortlist. That doesn't mean that he is set to sign for us. It means that he is part of a selection of players we are paying attention to. They include guys we know like Somerville's, Nico Williams's, Wesley Gasova, Desiree Doué, etc, etc, plus a few more names on the list I'll be discussing in a separate news video, hopefully after the Euro semi-final game. But getting back to the news stories, as we are learning, there's no concrete talks are taking place based on the reports that came out from Plettenberg. We have though made those informal contacts over the availability, as you're typically going to do, to see where the player's head's at, to see if he's down for a move, and to learn fees and prices. But since then, the story has been developing even more this afternoon, as we've learned from Sport Bild from Christian Folk. Borussia Dortmund would be open to selling Adeyemi for around £25 million, around 30 million euros. I can see why, and I'll get to that later on as this video goes on. So it seems like he is currently available for a fee and price that suits how much we're willing to spend on a player. But to give you guys the final context, we've learned that the agents of both Daniel Malen and Adeyemi have been pushing their client services out towards the European clubs who may be interested, and Adeyemi, if he has to leave Dortmund, would be interested in making a move to the Premier League. So that is everything we're learning surrounding the story. Again, he's not guaranteed to sign for us, but we're putting in those foundations. We're doing that legwork to find out, okay, let's see if the finances work out for him. Now, is he the right type of player we should be targeting? Let's keep things real. I'm starting to accept that our business this window, we won't be pushing the needle whatsoever. We aren't signing any upgrade guys. I feel like since we missed out on Champions League football, that was the big determiner behind how ambitious this window was set to be. I don't think the club right now will be willing at all to break any wage structure unless there's some incredible, exceptional option that opens up out of nowhere. But I'm not seeing that in this window in particular. So I think in the meantime, the strategy is maximize what we already have. Let players that are developing now continue their development. And hopefully if we can reinforce squad positions, that could be enough to maybe help the team for next season. That is the vibe I am getting. But going back to Adeyemi, is he necessarily a bad player? I don't think so. And I know that we could go to his stats, we could see Nini. Last season, he scored less goals and got less assists than his first season at Dortmund. But the main context is when Dortmund signed him from Salzburg, he was playing as a striker. And his record at the time was like 1 goal in every 2 appearances. And I honestly thought this guy was the next big German player to blow up. But it seems like Dortmund's business over the past 2 years hasn't really made too much sense, because they've signed a lot of players that are quite similar profiles. You know, Daniel Malen, Adeyemi, they already have guys like Makoko. They have too many players of the same profile, and they've been forced to use these guys out of position in wider areas. And I think that's why Adeyemi has maybe not shown the potential that I still think he has. And I think to myself, if you go for an Adeyemi, it does fulfill a profile we are looking at. Someone that has the possibility to play on the wing and as a striker as well too. And Adeyemi would be your 2-in-1 type of player. I'd like to think though that if we were targeting him, we're focusing on using him more as a striker. We already have Sterling. He ain't going nowhere. We still have Mudryk. I think we need maybe another backup striker, but with an Adeyemi that can also perform in the wide areas, maybe to nowhere near the same level as how he performs up front. That could be maybe an interesting move for us to think about, because Adeyemi, you could argue, is like the top 5 fastest players in Europe, one of the speediest players around. He knows how to find the back of the net. I think he's lost his confidence a bit playing out of position at Dortmund. We've got glimpses of what he can do. Let's not forget that goal he scored on the counter-attack against us last season in the Champions League. And I just think that that pacing behind could give us maybe a different weapon to turn to as a plan B. We have players that could find him in behind. I feel like his pace behind could stretch teams. We've seen Maresca has utilised guys like your Vardys and Co's as those direct wide threats and central threats too. So listen, I'm not here to say that he's my #1 guy. Most of the players we signed, listen, they want any of our top 1, top 2, top 3 options. Not at all, but I think we're all just accepting the reality of what this summer is really about. and the level of ambition we are going to show in this summer window. So Adeyemi, is he interesting to you guys? Let us know in the comment section. And on that note, my friends, I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving, and hopefully there should be another video out later today after the Euro semi-finals, so stay tuned for that. My friends, I'm NeedyFC, this is BlueLionsTV. See you all soon. Cool.